to discuss. Covers the Eagles in the NFL for Pro Football Network. Anthony DiBona joins us right now. Anthony, good morning. How are you, buddy?
Good morning. How you doing? I was appreciating you reading that hair restoration advertisement before the bald guy gets on. So thank you for that.
Well, I actually thought of that because I know that you're maybe hair challenged, and I was wondering if you were going to. But you have the hat on, so you wouldn't have known.
That's it. You got to keep it quiet.
All right. So Quinyon Mitchell, when the Eagles drafted him, I know a lot of people wanted the player that played at a was more of an acclaimed player at a bigger university. But, man, this dude's unbelievable. I saw you put a tweet out, the list of cornerbacks that have played 450-plus coverage snaps and haven't allowed a touchdown in 2024. This dude's a rookie. The list is one person. There's one person on the list, and it's Quinyon Mitchell. How surprised are you? How good is he this year? How good can he be in the future?
I mean, I had high expectations for him coming out of the draft. He was my number one cornerback as far as the rankings, and a lot of people wanted them to take Terrion Arnold from Detroit, from Alabama, that was drafted by Detroit. So both players are playing well, but Quinyon Mitchell he's playing like legitimately one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL, and he's putting up stats that like rival prime Darrelle Revis. So it's insane to see him do this in his rookie season in Philadelphia. And I mean, they couldn't have asked for a better rookie performance from him, and he's just thriving in every situation that he's put in. So I mean, credit to Vic Fangio, credit to Christian Parker. They've done a great job with him, but yeah, he's exceeded pretty much everyone's expectations, even though he was drafted in the first round.
Yeah, and you look at the Eagles historically here, let's just say over the last decade, and they've had some hits on draft picks, but Howie's been really good at finding a player for a year, finding this free agent, good value. And what he's done for this defense is he's done that with a couple of players, but really when you look at this defense, you go back to the drafts, Milton Williams, Jordan Davis, the Kobe Dean, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper, and even Jalix Hunt, who, I mean, didn't he play in an Ivy school and then he transferred to Houston Christian? I remember they drafted him and it's like, well, this is an interesting pick. He's already contributing. He's looking good out there. So, like, you look at this defense and their young core, man, like, they're only scratching the surface when you look at what they're doing right now.
And that's the crazy part about it, because like you said, with a guy like Jalix Hunt, who literally switched from safety to playing on the edge just in 2022. So it's not like he's been doing this for a long time. It was kind of more of like a home run pick in terms of you're just betting on his upside in maybe a year or two, where it's more of a pick for 2025 or 2026. But due to injuries, they're forced to rely on him now, and he stepped up. He played really, really well last week against the Ravens, and now it seems like he's going to be a key contributor moving forward with those top three on the edge. So, I mean, all these guys, like you said, they're locked up for the foreseeable future for a while. I mean, Jordan Davis, he still has another year. Jalen Carter's got 2 more years, and that's not counting their fifth-year options. So the Eagles are really well positioned to be just great on defense for years to come.
So, Anthony, one thing I worry about this year, and let's just start on the defense, is depth. Because Brandon Graham goes down, so they've been more or less doing a three-man rotation, which means Sweat's playing a lot of snaps, Nolan Smith's playing a lot of snaps. Jalen Carter played every snap, but I guess the last snap of the game where he didn't need to be out there. So worried about the depth a little bit on the defensive line. Is there anything that they can do forward? And is this something that going forward, is this something that you're maybe concerned about?
I mean, I think along the interior, they're probably okay because they still have, like you said, Milton Williams, Jordan Davis. Moro Ajomo has played really well as well. Thomas Booker has played well when called upon. But on the edge, they really can't afford another injury because, like you said, they've kind of went from using a 5-man rotation earlier in the season. Then they were using 4. Now they're down to 3. So if they suffer another injury there, there's not a lot of options out there. I mean, you could sign somebody off the practice squad, or you can sign a vet like Jason Pierre-Paul that's kind of been sitting on his couch all season like the Dolphins did last year with Vic Fangio. But, I mean, that's not an ideal situation, obviously. So, I mean, if they can stay healthy on the edge, they'll be all right. But, I mean, Bryce Huff supposedly still will eventually return maybe later in the season. But they really have to survive through that time and keep this rotation of 3 alive, because it's going to be looking pretty bad if they have to deal with another injury there.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the secondary as well, because we've seen Darius Slay pretty much every week. You're watching him walk off the field with various injuries, and he had a concussion. So you hope that he's rebounding from that. But anytime I see Avonte Maddox out there, or really Isaiah Rodgers as well, it seems like he's getting beat. What's the plan if Slay ends up going down again? Who is replacing him, and is the secondary in the depth a concern for you?
I mean, I think I'm pretty comfortable in that regard because Isaiah Rodgers, he's given up 2 touchdowns this season, but overall, as far as like a yards per reception, he's one of the top players in the league. It's like Roger McCreary from Tennessee, Cooper DeJean, who well, I'm sure we'll talk about, and then it's Isaiah Rodgers as far as players that have played 150 or more snaps. So I know people want to talk about the touchdowns that Isaiah Rodgers has given up, but he's made some timely plays as far as the pass deflection to C.J. Gardner-Johnson for the interception, then the forced fumble against the Rams. So I think if Darius Slay's out again, I feel pretty comfortable with Isaiah Rodgers stepping in. But like similar to the Edge, if they deal with another injury besides Darius Slay, then that's when they'll really get into trouble because Keely Ringo's a little bit too physical, although he was drafted relatively high. But besides that, they really don't have much.
Yeah, so Cooper DeJean, he's going to be on Anthony's show live today at 10:30. But early in the season, he didn't get a lot of play in the first maybe 2-3 games. And I remember thinking like, all right, maybe it's a little bit too big of a jump year one, and he's going to maybe need a lot of this year before he kind of gets his feet wet and gets his feet underneath him. That's not the case. Pretty much as far as he started getting regular snaps, you have noticed him pretty much every week. And we've seen 2 huge tackles this year. Derrick Henry this past week. Then he made that 4th down tackle on Jamar Chase against the Bengals, which was a huge spot in the game. It was a huge momentum play in the game. I can't say enough about this kid. And you talk about Reed Blankenship, and that's, man, and he was an undrafted free agent. But what a find. It's not often, Anthony, that a player slides that the Eagles really like. They slide into the second round, and then Washington says, okay, we'll trade with you so you can trade up and get the player. And that this dude's making weekly contributions. He's not playing like a rookie. He's playing like a Pro Bowl player right now.
I truly believe that after the bye week, when they inserted him into that nickel spot instead of Avonte Maddox, that's really where the entire defense kind of just flipped because just the physicality that he brings in the slot and like you said, he makes crucial stops after crucial stop, whether it's 3rd down, 4th down against guys in the open field. I mean, a rookie cornerback shouldn't be stopping Jamar Chase in the open field. They shouldn't be stopping, sure enough, Derrick Henry in the open field. So the fact that he's able to do this rather consistently and he's allowed the lowest yards per reception besides Roger McCreary as far as cornerbacks with 150 plus snaps. So he's playing at an unbelievable level, but not only his work in coverage, but it's just the physicality and the ability that he has in Vic Fangio's scheme in particular, where he already said that he kind of views the nickel as more of a linebacker as well because of the work they have to do against the running game. So Cooper DeJean has just stepped in and played perfectly in a spot that he really didn't play in college. He mostly played outside cornerback in college, but he's adapted well to that slot, and it seems like between him and Quinyon Mitchell, the Eagles are set up for success in the secondary for a long, long time, which is something that we haven't been able to say for years.
All right, better defense. This defense, 2022 or 2017? Who's the best defense of the 3?
I think 2022 is the worst of the 3 because I think this defense this year, 2024, rivals the 2017 defense. They're very similar as far as they didn't get a ton of sacks, and whereas that 2022 team, they had 70 sacks. They had 15 more sacks than any other team in the NFL, which was just absurd. So I don't know if that's really that's what they relied on, but the fact that this defense is so good when they're not getting a ton of sacks, they're not getting really much takeaways compared to the rest of the NFL. They're 14th in takeaways. So they're able to shut these teams down without taking the ball away, without sacking the quarterback at a super high rate. So if I had to choose, maybe I'm a little biased because it's the current moment right now, but I think the way that their secondary is as well, the cornerbacks have only allowed 5 touchdowns this season, and 3 of those are on either Isaiah Rodgers or Avonte Maddox, and Darius Slay's allowed the other 2. So they just have a shutdown secondary, which I think kind of puts them above those other 2 that you mentioned.
DiBona NFL, DiBona NFL is his Twitter handle, and if you're an Eagle fan, he puts out a bunch of great stuff out there. I mean, literally just to prepare, like, all right, Anthony's coming on today. Let me go to his Twitter and look how much stuff he's got out here. So we'll close with this right here. Do they win out? When you look at the rest of the schedule, and I know it's tough, and forget about the last 2 games of the year because depending on what happens with Detroit, you may not need that last game or whatever. But do you see them losing a game here? Do you want to go into the postseason winning 12 or 13 games in a row?
I mean, that wouldn't be a bad problem to have. I mean, of course, you worry about maybe they peaked a little too early because we saw what happened last season, obviously, when they reached 10-2 and then kind of spiraled out of control. But I just think this season is just built so much better and for better sustained success because of the running game, because of how dominant the defense is. And I mean, if you look at their schedule, the only really concern is probably that Steelers game because the Steelers are playing really well. They're playing really well since Russell Wilson took over at quarterback. But then again, they're kind of a similar team to the Ravens in that regard, where they had such a great defense and quarterback was playing at a high level. So it's hard not to think that they're going to win out at this point, just because of how like their sustained success has been so great, and you really don't see a weakness on this team right now.
It's pretty crazy. All right, one more thing. Saquon Barkley, his usage is one, I'll just say minor concern because he has, I mean, we're watching one of the best seasons by an Eagles player. I'll rival her with T.O. in 2004 before he got injured. He's had that kind of impact. He's that good of a player. He's also has the most carries in the NFL. And I mean, they need him. They need him. Their offense runs through him. In the fourth quarter, we've seen it. Like, just keep giving him the ball, give him the ball, and then they wear teams down, and he's in the fourth quarter. Any type of an injury to Saquon Barkley, even if it's an ankle injury and he's still trying to play through it, it changes everything you do offensively. It really changes the dynamic of the team. You think they will pull back from his usage and maybe start mixing in some other guys in the coming weeks, knowing that you're getting towards the end of the season?
Yeah, I think given their schedule coming up, like you mentioned with those last two games, maybe not even being meaningful, I think that's kind of where they can lighten his load a little bit. And I know they said that they kind of structure practice to where they give him a little bit of a lighter load during the week to be able to ride him on game day. But like you said, he's carrying the ball a lot. He's catching the ball quite a bit too. He's on pace for 41 receptions. So he's got a big workload. But like you said, they also need it because they've attempted the least, they've thrown the ball the least of any team in the NFL. And so they're not really relying on Jalen Hurts to do a ton, although their yards per passing attempt is up there with the top 5 teams in the league. But they just don't have to rely on the passing game when you have a guy like Saquon Barkley in the backfield. So I mean, these
Anthony,
next couple of weeks where they're playing like less inferior opponents, then they can take advantage and kind of give Saquon Barkley some time off.